Third overtime. Awful pass in Barkley for the steal and the layup. The Suns crawling all over the floor with exhaustion and exuberance. 129-121 in 3 overtimes.
Man, Michael Jordan shot the ball 43 times. Damn. That's unbelievable.
40 seconds to go, though. No defense for this. They just part. Michael with a vintage drive pulls the Bulls back within 2. To Grant, to an open Paxson. The legacy of his career may be clinching shots.
We're not supposed to root.
The embrace between Jordan and Barkley.
But I like rooting for history.
An historical three-peat for Chicago, the first team in 27 years to win 3 straight titles.
Destiny shall be back here for the 4th time. Thank you.
Worrisome news from basketball. Michael Jordan's father is evidently missing. His family has not heard from him in 3 weeks.
It was such an up, down at nearly every turn.
There was not a trace of blood nor any hint of foul play when the red Lexus was found last week 10 miles outside Fayetteville.
On Friday morning, a body found floating in a South Carolina creek 10 days ago was identified as Jordan. Dental records were used to make the positive ID, turning a John Doe into James Jordan.
I remember when I heard about it, I didn't believe it at first.
Jordan was murdered during a random act of violence, authorities said Sunday, when announcing the arrest of 2 teenagers.
It's just a reflection of society in general. I mean, nothing surprises me anymore.
The private thoughts of Michael Jordan were made public Thursday when he released a written statement.
I was deeply disturbed by the early reports speculating there was a sinister connection to Dad's death. These totally unsubstantiated reports reflect a complete lack of sensitivity to basic human decency. When James Jordan was murdered, I lost my dad. I also lost my best friend.
James Jordan was just a smaller version of his son. They looked like each other and lived for each other. And like most of us, James Jordan was a fan of Michael's. A fan second, but a father first.
He looks, he gives to Jordan. Jordan to the circle, puts the shot in the air. Good! The game's over, and the Bulls have won.
There will never be another one like him to play the game of basketball.
And Dan, on a night when Chicago's baseball team opened the playoffs, its championship basketball team may be closing out an era. One of the true pillars of the NBA ending his career.
Big news in Chicago is not the ALCS tonight. Sources with the Chicago Bulls have confirmed that Michael Jordan will announce his retirement effective immediately at a Wednesday morning press conference.
I don't think any other retirement takes away from a league like Michael's retirement did. Larry and Magic left, but you still had Michael. The night of Michael's retirement, I happened to be at sort of the hub of it at Comiskey Park.
He threw out the first pitch of Game 1 of the ALCS, and then he went up into a private box with his family, and he's watching the announcement on the air at CBS.
Watching the reaction of various media as the word started to filter through, most people didn't believe it, and they thought, oh yeah, that's funny. Play a joke on me. Look, I'm trying to watch a ball game.
Michael Jordan marched into the Bulls practice facility Wednesday morning to announce his retirement, and the ensuing processional was a veritable who's who in the NBA. There was Commissioner David Stern and Nike Chairman Phil Knight. Teammates flanked him and coaches stood by, along with hundreds of assembled media with one collective question: why?
I've always stressed to people that have known me and the media that has followed me that when I lose the sense of motivation and the sense of to prove something as a basketball player, it's time for me to move away from the game of basketball. And I asked Phil, quite frankly, is there anything for me to prove as a basketball player? And he thought for a second, and that's all I needed.
If Michael Jordan needed a validation of that nagging thought from within, Phil Jackson supplied it. Clearly, Jordan was hoping for that answer, because in his mind and his heart, he had had enough. Enough of living the life of Michael Jordan. Enough of all that public scrutiny, whether he was grieving over his father's death, or golfing, or gambling, or anything.
He had some decision in making me realize how valuable life is, and then that in turn made me make my decision even simpler. But I was leaning and very much in that direction way before he passed.
People around me have missed out. My wife, going to movies, going to dinners, taking my kids to parks, amusement parks. These things that my family's missed out on, that I'm making a conscious effort to try to do more of.
Reaction today has been as swift as a Jordan breakaway jam. We've definitely lost someone who's inspired us and thrilled us.
He carries this team. Rarely do players carry teams to wins, much less championships. And if there is a better player that's ever going to play this game, we're all going to be scratching our head.
I love him, and whatever he decides to do, I'm behind him 100%.
The only thing that disappoints me is the fact that we had always planned on retiring together.
He retired at a peak as an absolute champion.
When I get to a pinnacle and I feel that my skills are still good, I'm not starting on the downside of my career, I want to walk away from the game. And it's been very fortunate that I'm on top.
And you have to go back really to a Jim Brown, to someone who did it like that.
Jordan said, frankly, today that his retirement was a decision a long time in coming, but it may not be final.
5 years down the line, if that urge comes back, if the Bulls have me, if David Stern lets me back in the league, I may come back.
He told me that he was lost his hunger. I told him that if he began to develop an appetite, he had my number.
This was, after all, a happy day for Mike Jordan, a time for smiles, and finally, he hopes, a time for peace.
When I walk away from the game, I won't miss the cheers because it was there. It was there. I can remember those things, but I don't need it to live. I don't need it to survive.
We will remember him, not like we remember Willie Mays in the outfield for the 1973 Mets, or not like Joe DiMaggio that last season when his heel was hurting him with the Yankees in 1951. We'll remember Michael Jordan hugging a third championship trophy and then hugging his father afterwards.
The media keeps waiting for a sign Michael's going to be coming back or maybe changing sports. The latest Jordan rumor sweeping through Chicago has him showing up for the White Sox spring training. Let's hope he doesn't show up at a bowling alley. They'll have him joining the PBA Tour.
I'm sure we'll see him on a golf course somewhere. Still to come, the year's great comebacks, the remarkable off-the-field recoveries of Dennis Byrd and Mario Lemieux successfully battling cancer, and those on-the-field marvels, including the Buffalo Bills' comeback for the ages. We'll be back in a moment.
Okay, classic cars. 63 Vans. Split window. Right. 68 Camaro Super Sport. GTO, any year. Nice. Gran Torino. Starsky and Hutch. Good car. 65 Mustang Ragtop. It's obvious. 75 Pacer. Tail fins. Bumper bullets. Bench seats. Drive-ins. Boss 302s. 427 big block LED8 with an 850 double pump.
Beechwood aged Budweiser. Crisp, clean, classic.
You can still fly with Michael Jordan. All the excitement of the Jordan career is captured in this exclusive collection, the Michael Jordan Thrill Pack. Free with your paid subscription to Sports Illustrated, the magazine that gets you into sports like no one else. The Thrill Pack includes 2 free videos, Come Fly With Me 91 and Michael Jordan Airtime. Come fly with Michael to his early days in North Carolina and stay way up with the NBA and the original Slam and Jam and excitement. In Airtime, you go behind the scenes to see what it's like to be Michael Jordan as his championship dreams come true. Your Thrill Pack also includes this special collector's edition of Sports Illustrated. It's full-color excitement celebrating 3 seasons at the top. Get 54 issues of Sports Illustrated for only $1.39 an issue. Save over 52% off the cover price. For quicker delivery, use your credit card. Don't miss this big 3-pack Thrill Pack. It's the only way to fly. There is nothing in the world like Sports Illustrated. Get into it.
The best of Sportscenter is brought to you by Budweiser, Beechwood aged for a crisp, clean, classic taste.
Mario Lemieux of the Pittsburgh Penguins has been diagnosed tonight with Hodgkin's disease.
On the way down to my house, could hardly drive because of the tears and crying all day, and that was certainly a tough day in my life. As soon as I'm 100%, I'll be back, and hopefully I'll be back for the playoffs and win another Stanley Cup.
It's rare to link the words hope and cancer in the same phrase, and Lemieux did it. And he did it beautifully on ice, too.
You know, every time you're out for 2 months or a long period of time, you don't know what to expect.
On the same night that Mario Lemieux was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease, Dennis Byrd was able to speak about his recovery from a spinal injury.
This has been the hardest time of my life. Yeah, I can move it. I can pick it up and kick it a little bit and do all kinds of stuff, you know. I could sit here and tap dance for you, but I don't want this to be a, you know, I didn't want this to be a circus show. I'm very glad, very proud to be standing before you here today. And quite frankly, I'm glad to be standing anywhere today. And obviously that was written down.
George came back clearly wanting to be liked.
Our Peter Gammons was on hand for the greatest return since President de Gaulle went back into Paris. Well, sort of.
The Yankees handed out 300 credential stickers. As paparazzi, fans, flighty well-wishers, Hooters girls, and even security awaited the return of the boss.
The return of Marge.
Hello, Margie. Well, hello, Margie. It's so nice to have you back where you belong.
If you couldn't stand football, it was still a great game.
Just when you thought Warren Moon couldn't top the heartbreak from last year's playoff loss in Denver, along comes a banged-up, bummed-out Bills team led by a backup quarterback.
Biggest oil spill since the Exxon Valdez. Bubba McDowell takes the tip off Keith McKellar's hands, and it's 35-3 Houston. He could go, you know, forget it. Forget it. This is where the Bills go out a little early this year.
It's 38-all. Bills can win it here. Wright puts it down. The kick is on the way, and it is good. And the Bills have won it. The Bills have won it.
The Oiler defense apparently left for Miami at halftime, a little prematurely.
It was as simple as that. We choked. We choked as a team. We choked as management. Everyone in this organization just choked.
The Giants with a 9-game bulge in the West. By the way, at this hour, the Giants lead the Braves by 9.5.
They make a deal, they take a chance, they get Fred McGriff, boom, they take off.
Fred McGriff, his first pitch, souvenir, number 29. The Braves are on a roll.
Watching the Braves come on this year kind of reminded me in some respects of Secretariat at the Belmont.
Now the lead is a somewhat precarious 4.5 games.
Once they got a whiff of the finish line, they just took off.
One thing that hadn't changed since May 11th was the San Francisco Giants, in first place since that day until today. The Dodgers win, eliminating their old rivals.
We show people what we're made of, and it's been a lot of fun to go out there and prove people wrong. Yeah.
We got our ass kicked, man. That's what went wrong.
Just that one time. I mean, just one time, you know, before it's over.
I want all those fans in San Francisco to feel today like we felt in 1991 and 1951 and 1962. Now, they will remember this day a lot more than we will.
We had a 6-run inning, a 5-run inning, 2 4s, a 3, and 2 2s.
Lenny Dykstra. And that's another hole in the O-zone. 14-9 Phil's top of 8. Jays come back 2 men on Molitor. Shot down to third. Hollins with the Matador defense. 14-10 Phil's after the error.
Was it a sloppy game?
Devon White waiting the pitch. Swung on. Dykstra coming in. Can't get it. 2-run score.
Or was it one of the greatest games?
It is the highest scoring game in World Series history as the two teams combined for 29 runs.
That game was amazing.
Humorous? I don't see anything humorous about this game at all.
Did you know the 29 runs game for more than the total runs scored in 11 other World Series?
Game 4's marathon spanned 4 hours and 14 minutes. Time-wise, the longest game in World Series history. The game also signaled the beginning of the end for Mitch Williams' career in Philadelphia.
And afterwards, Dave Stewart said, quote, "This game shows you should never give up," adding that it was a great game for the kids. He must have meant those on the West Coast are the ones taking Ginsana.
You could use some right now, couldn't you?
I could.
Later in the show, more records, including Anthony Young's bouts with dubious fame.
Coming up next, a look at 93's more unlikely outcomes, including some last-second heroics in South Bend.
Here's the snap. Here's the squat. The kick is away. It is long. It is high. It is good! It is good! Boston College wins! Unbelievable! Wins! David Gordon kicks from 41 yards away!
I see that look in her eye, and I know he's a goner. You missed the playoffs at Higgins. I went 4 for 4. That's margaritas. And I'm leaving the parking lot. Guy looks at me like I'm Dracula or something. Then the next thing I know, I'm on the freeway. I'm self-lit. I mean, the right-hand lane, I'm doing like 35, 40. There are like 1,000 cars stacked up behind me, honking and beeping. But get this, I wasn't in the right lane. I was in the fast lane.
One of these days, we're going to wonder why we ever thought drinking and driving was funny. This is one of those days.
Everyone knows the Steam Room in Port Jefferson for fast, fresh seafood at appetizing prices. When dining with friends and family, enjoy delicious dinners in our atrium or full-service dining room. Succulent lobsters, delicious Alaskan snow crabs, plus a mouth-watering selection of broiled fish, homemade chowders, and more. So bring the whole family for fresh seafood at appetizing prices. The Steam Room, Route 25A, opposite the ferry in Port Jefferson. 928-6690.
Welcome back to the Best of Sportscenter. The term three-peat was in vogue during 1993 as the Bulls, Penguins, and Blue Devils were all seeking their third straight championship.
As we already showed you, the Bulls solidified their rank in history with their third consecutive title. As for the other two teams Chris mentioned, they met a different destiny.
In this next section, we recap the year's shockers, and we'll start with the very first night of the year where a seemingly invincible Miami team took on an underappreciated team from Alabama.
I think it's what all of us who cover college football have waited for a long time, a true national championship game, 1 versus 2.
Could Alabama and Miami possibly live up to this kind of billing? That's the kind of pressure that was on Gene Stallings looking for a national championship against Dennis Erickson. 3rd and 9. The Heisman Trophy winner, Gino Torretta, picked off by Sam Shade. Gino Torretta trying to rally the Canes, picked off again in the second half.
Now you're thinking about this comeback that's going to happen.
Gino trying to find that Heisman form. Instead, he kept finding tied defenders. Gene Stallings, who didn't start off well at Alabama, but has now given them a national championship, just like the old Bear days.
I'll remind you again that the crystal football is valued at $35,000.
Dale Brown said of the Bears, they don't have a prayer against Duke.
Well, I guess the Cal team found a Saturday afternoon church service to their liking.
That game was similar to the Sugar Bowl.
Blowing a lead and still coming back to beat the champs. That made it a memorable game. Jason Kidd picks up the loose ball and goes off the glass with about a minute to go. Gets it and is fouled. Now only 25 seconds to go. Duke tries to tie. Hurley, can he do it? No, off the back iron. Murray would hit the free throw to ice the game. The celebration begins. He's not in pain. He's happy. Coach K. And Jason Kidd embracing after a great college basketball game. Cal wins it by 5.
And then the emotion afterward was amazing to watch Mike Krzyzewski.
Every time that we went out on the court, I knew that they would give me their bodies, their minds, and their hearts. I'm only sad that I can't do it anymore with them. And all this stuff where people talk about college sports and things being bad, you have no... I want to whack everybody who says that. College sports are great.
I didn't think the Pittsburgh Penguins were going to lose a game.
To see their arch rivals, the New York Islanders, come off and be the Cinderella team. A minute left, Larry Murphy shot, tipped by Francis, then by Rick Tocchet. We're tied at 3. We're going to OT, and in overtime, Mario Lemieux, same story, stoned by Glenn Healy. The Islanders take advantage of their good goaltending. Ferraro finding Bollick, who one-times it and scores the game winner for the New York Islanders. They do it. They pull off the upset. For Mario, though, and the Penguins, no three-peat this year.
We got no respect from anybody. We got no respect from the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we're going to the semis, and they're going home, and that is wonderful.
If it were played on a weekday, banks would close, mail wouldn't be delivered, it would be a national holiday. Florida State with a 4th and goal. Charlie Ward looking in the end zone, and Brian McGee gets some hands on it, but doesn't hang on to it. And Kes McCorvey right there to haul it in for the touchdown.
And the final play of the game, 3 seconds to go, and the ball is snapped. Ward is flushed out of the pocket. Never a chance. Notre Dame wins it. Charlie Ward knows it.
They have now the longest winning streak all to themselves at 17 straight. Ward put the ball up 50 times.
They had a great plan. It wasn't anything different from what we thought. They were just too darn physical on us for some reason.
But if you have a vote in the coaches poll, where do you put Florida State? Do they just drop number 2?
You think you might have to see these guys again?
I want to tell you, to me, if I was voting, I'd put Boston College #1. That's what we play next week.
Well, so much for the neat, tidy New Year's Day bowl picture package. The bowl has been dropped and broken into a bunch of pieces following last Saturday's win over Florida State. All the Irish had to do was win to complete their perfect season. Notre Dame going on 4th and goal from the 4-yard line. Holt sets up the play. All sorts of time from McDougal, and he connects with Lake Dawson. The perfect pass in the end zone for the score. Extra point made it 39-38. The Irish on top.
Well, they scored too soon. Foley gets lucky here. Pete Persich could have picked it off. National title teams maybe make that catch. They didn't do it. The luck of the Irish ran out.
Here's the snap. Here's the spot. The kick is away. It is long. It is high. It is good! Boston College wins! Unbelievable! Wins! David Gordon kicks from 41 yards away! We thought we'd do it! Nobody believed us, but we did it! We did it!
After the game, the Boston College students tore down the goalpost at Alumni Stadium in Boston.
Here comes our king, a huge upset looming here as our king comes flying on the outside, and he runs by Bertrando, kissing Chris. Here is our king to win it in an absolute shocker.
Our Kong was 99-1 on the tote board only because the tote doesn't go to triple digits. The horse was actually 133-1 and paid a Breeders' Cup record $269.20.
Coming up next on the Best of Sportscenter, the darker side of sports in 1993, violence on the court and from the rink, the disturbing sights of the year when we return.
My dandruff's really bad. The itch drives me crazy. I'll try anything. The Denorex side feels different. It has a clean, tingling feeling. Nothing with Head & Shoulders.
Both Denorex and Head & Shoulders have effective dandruff medicine. But Denorex goes a step further with something extra that tingles to give your scalp a fresh, invigorating feeling.
That tingle is why I started using Denorex.
Try Denorex with conditioners, the serious dandruff shampoo.
No more flakes, no more itch. My dandruff's history.
It's finally here. The Best of Sportscenter 1993 home video. All the events, all the highlights, the very best from all the experts, including your host, Robin Roberts. Relive 1993 for only $14.95. Phone 800-717-ESPN. That's 800-717-ESPN. Or send your check to Best of Sportscenter, P.O. Box 2284, South Burlington, Vermont 05407. Shipping and handling $3.95.
Some of the things that we saw on the trip, you'd have a real problem thinking that he could manufacture these emotions or this type of behavior as a public relations gesture.
Nothing on this extraordinary trip could have prepared Bo for his second stop, Somalia, where he saw firsthand the slow death of starvation and the brutally quick death of violence. Jimmy Roberts went with him.
After all he had been through in barely a week, it was yet another special day. Are you nervous about what you're going to see today?
Very much so. I think I'm more nervous than I would be for a fight.
And with good cause. Just 10 minutes after he landed, the champ was hit with a roundhouse to the heart.
There was a little girl in there that I, touched on the back and gave a little, hug to, and I felt nothing but bones, and I guess it kind of messed me up, and I think it's very unfair for a person her age to be in that predicament. She didn't ask to come in.
The children of this feeding center likely had no idea who their giant visitor was, but the compound's 23-year-old volunteer leader did. Valerie Place said after the visit she would remember it for the rest of her life. Tragically, she didn't have much of a chance. What was a photo opportunity for this day became the real war that it is every day. 1 hour later, Valerie Place was killed in an ambush on the way to Baidoa. But Bo had no idea.
How's everybody doing?
By that time, he was already at an Army supply unit, his spirits rising, along with those of the troops he had come to visit.
There we went to a hospital that was run by AmeriCares, the American Relief Agency, that was so shocking. No septic system, not enough medical supplies.
But with the arrival of Big Daddy's airlift, $1.7 million worth of medical supplies has found its way to Mandera. In terms of people living and people dying, will this plane make a difference?
Oh, magnificent. Yes, major difference.
This was a week that Riddick Bowe learned a new way to fight, and in doing so showed that even without a jab or a hook, he is a champion for all of the world.
I was walking out to lunch when the bulletin hit the computer.
I immediately turn us on, and I see Bob Lee.
Monica Seles was attacked today, stabbed in the back by a 38-year-old man during a match in Hamburg, Germany. Seles was leading Magdalena Mileta 6-4-4-3 and took a seat for the changeover. Television coverage went to commercial break, but as technicians readied their next video, courtside microphones picked up the attack. Security immediately subdued the assailant. Seles was initially more stunned than injured.
I hate to say this, but it amazes me that more stuff like this hasn't happened, because you see what happens to other celebrities, stalkings, things like this, and I'm surprised it hasn't happened in sports because there's more access.
18-year-old Mary Pierce, the 14th-ranked player in the world, told Sports Illustrated that her father physically abused her to the point where she feared for her life and needed to hire bodyguards for protection.
Saying they're lying through their teeth, Jim Pierce, the controversial father of tennis star Mary Pierce, is denying claims he struck both Mary and his wife Yannick. Jim Pierce also told New York Newsday he's never threatened their lives.
The threats are very real, very real. The father is just a man that's on a mission. His mission is to be able to get his point across. What a better place to do it at the U.S. Open.
Which is why Nelson Mercado is Mary Pierce's shadow. She is a rising young tennis star, and he is her bodyguard, hired to keep her safe in an environment filled with security nightmares.
Sorry that even happened to Monica. I wish I was there, because I know I would have done everything I can not to let it happen.
I would just like to, that you understand and respect my privacy for my family and for my private life, and you know, what I wanted everybody to know and everything I've said, so I would appreciate it if we didn't talk about it anymore.
She told her story, it's off of her back, and she can just be Mary Pierce. And the unfortunate thing is, you know, everybody at the tennis tournaments now are like looking around at, you know, Jim, and has like a little, you know, like a mug shot, you know, looking to see, are you Jim Pierce?
14 years ago when we signed on, I don't think we really thought that what we would be reporting on a daily basis about sports would be so far removed so often from the final score.
Sunday's celebration resulted in random gunfire, 700 arrests, and 2 deaths.
47 police vehicles were damaged by mobs that roamed St. Catherine Street.
The one thing that differentiates hockey from the other 3 major team sports in this country is that you carry a stick.
The Isles up 4-1. Pierre Turgeon in the third period makes them pay. Dale Hunter follows with a cheap shot. Turgeon out 4 to 6 weeks with a separated shoulder and a concussion.
There's a perfect example. The league says they want to clean up the game. Well, Mr. Bettman's got his first chance to clean it up, because Hunter's been doing it for a lot of years. He's a cheap player, and he went and he took out one of the game's stars. And to suspend him at the start of next year does us no good. He's got to be hit in the pocketbook, and he's got to be hit hard, because that's ridiculous.
Gary Bettman sending a clear message with a record 21-game suspension for Hunter without pay, and it will take effect at the start of next season.
When you have individual confrontations, you have something that is the ultimate conflict of personalities.
Your 2 main combatants, Kevin Johnson and Doc Rivers. Rivers taking the ball up, and Kevin Johnson with a surprise for him, and Rivers doesn't take that. It goes after KJ. And the bench is clear, and everyone goes after everyone else. Coaches, assistants, everyone gets in it.
Nolan Ryan has thrown 7 no-hitters. Last night he threw 6 unanswered one-hitters on Robin Ventura's head.
Top of the third, Ryan against Ventura, and check out the pitch.
Watch out.
Gets him in the elbow, ball destined for his back. He thinks about it for a second, and then this was a major mistake. He's not Jesse Ventura, he's Robin Ventura. Nolan Ryan, as the Associated Press described it, hit Robin Ventura 6 times in the face before anybody got in to stop them, and says, here, take some Advil.
You're involved in a ball game, you're trying to make pitches, you're trying to do your job, so I mean, that's the furthest thing in your mind, you don't even think about it. And if that situation comes up, then you just react to it. They're coming out with the intent to hurt you, and so you have to protect yourself.
I thought it really gave a John Wayne quality to Nolan Ryan, that A, he's a regular guy after all, and don't mess with him. It doesn't matter how old you are.
And when you're losing a lot, it doesn't take much to lose it completely.
All these ass questions every night. And stay out and asking all his dumb ass questions. Stupid. I'm sick and tired of all this bullshit. Now, put that in your pipe and smoke.
Bob Patterson
Dr. Conway tomorrow.
plunks Brian McRae. Does McRae rush the pitcher? No, he goes into the dugout. He goes into the dugout after Kevin Kennedy. The odds are not good.
And some felt, Dan, that if a commissioner were in place in baseball, action would have been taken against Hal McRae for that post-game tirade.
Hal's son Brian, who plays for the Royals, said after hearing the tirade, he was able to differentiate between Hal the manager and Hal the father. Still to come on this 90-minute special, some other oddities, including the night the sky was falling in Las Vegas. A man fell out of the sky and interrupted a heavyweight bout.
But up next, feats of uncommon recognition, including Mark Whitten, who carved a place for himself in the record books.
Denny! Yes! His fourth home run of the game! Da-da-da, da-da-da.
The Lincoln Mark 8's revolutionary suspension automatically lowers the car at high speeds for better handling and less wind resistance, which raises the bar for everyone else. The Lincoln Mark 8. Drive everything else first.
In the outfield, Kirby Union Gap Puckett. Also in the outfield, Juan Going Gonzalez. Behind the plate is Tony Jalapena. And managing this club, Jim Della.
Next on the ESPN.
Welcome back to the show. 1993 had its share of streaks and milestones. Most recently, the Houston Rockets with their torrid run, tying the NBA record of 15 consecutive wins to begin a season.
But possibly the most notable streak, a record of misfortune. And we begin our look at milestones with Anthony Young. The guy just couldn't win.
Anthony Young streak, I thought might still be going now.
Anthony Young says, Gavalt facing Walt Weiss. Beautiful pickup by Anthony. Nobody's at third base to cover it. And he has no play.
He had the right combination of a really bad team and a guy who seemed to really absorb the worst possible scenario.
But in the ninth, the Mets tie it off of Brian Harvey. Then Eddie Murray rips a shot down the right field line. Ryan Thompson, who singled in the tying run, on his horse, and he scores. And Anthony Young finally wins a game.
When people do things like Ken Griffey Jr. did, it really shows what ESPN can do.
We are following the night of Ken Griffey Jr. trying to sneak into the record books to tie Dale Long and Don Mattingly for consecutive games with home runs.
You're able to go to the moment if you're able to stay with us for the night, and you can be there and experience it.
You are looking live. Ken Griffey Jr. trying to homer in his 8th consecutive game. Dick Bremer, Jim Catt, George Frazier have the call on Midwest Sports Channel.
To right field. This ball is gone. Gone and into the history books.
It was fun. You know, it ain't every day that I can come to the ballpark and hit a home run in 8 straight days, you know, other than BP.
You may watch baseball for the rest of your life and not see an evening like last night. The Cardinals and the Reds played a doubleheader. They used a Major League record 15 pitchers in the first game, and then Mark Whitten tied 3 Major League records in the nightcap.
Rob Dibble stands between Whitten and a Major League record.
Runner at first, 1 out, 2-0 to Whitten. Into center field. Denny. Yes! His 4th home run of the game. He has 12 RBIs. Da-da-da, da-da-da.
4 home runs in 1 game. 4 dingers, 12 ribbies. No one else has ever done that.
For Carlton Fisk, it was a wonderful night in what's been a season of discontent. The 45-year-old future Hall of Famer backstop was honored at Comiskey on the evening he was to break the Major League record for games caught.
I hope this isn't viewed upon as being the end. I think this is part of the journey.
Roughly 3 months shy of 24 years since he caught his first Major League game, just 6 days since he broke the record for the most games caught. The Sox let the other shoe drop this afternoon, and Fisk went with it.
Don Shula belongs in the same paragraph with Paul Brown and George Halas.
It's no surprise that he's where he is, at the top of the list. He is the best ever, and he deserves it.
A special victory for Don Shula, a landmark ride for the Dolphins head coach. Shula now has a 29-8 record with backup quarterbacks, and it was Doug Peterson this time helping Shula to his magic moment.
I'm going to sometime have some time to enjoy this, and on the plane going back, I'm sure I'm going to think about it some, and then, you know, get to work on next week.
Hall of Fame weekend began in Canton, Ohio, where the 5-member class of '93 were inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Everything that you hope to have in a father-son relationship came through during that ceremony.
Not only is my dad an exceptional athlete, he's a role model. He's my biggest role model and best friend.
We made a wager that who would be the first one to break down in tears, and I was the first one to say that I wouldn't, and I was the first one to say how strong I was and everything else. And after hearing my son get up here and talk, I don't care if I lose the bet.
Reggie Jackson modestly went in solo through the doors of Cooperstown Sunday afternoon.
Friends, in the words of Lou Gehrig, today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
When we come back, we will pay tribute to some future Hall of Famers, the retirements of 1993, including Nolan Ryan, and the abrupt ending to his legendary career.
You hoped he would fly forever, that he would continue to soar, for Michael Jordan accomplished what others could not.
This is the greatest performance ever.
Time and time again, he showed us things we couldn't believe and gave us moments we wouldn't forget. Now all the excitement of the Jordan career is captured in this exclusive collection from Sports Illustrated, the Michael Jordan Thrill Pack. It's free with your paid subscription to Sports Illustrated, where millions of readers joined Michael on his amazing adventure. Call this toll-free number now and get your free collector special that lets you relive the thrilling moments in the career of the man who became a legend. First, you'll get Come Fly With Me 91, a video flight that takes off with a great view of Michael's early days in North Carolina. The fantastic flight continues to the NBA for the original slam and jam and excitement. Your thrill pack continues with your second free video, Michael Jordan Airtime. It's Michael at the peak of his incredible talent. You go behind the scenes and stay with him everywhere as he achieves his championship dreams. At home and on the road, you'll get a feel for what it's like to be Michael Jordan Superstar.
Back in the building!
Your free thrill pack also includes this collector's edition of Sports Illustrated, 3 Seasons to Savor. It's full-color excitement to let you run with the Bulls during their championship years. Don't miss Michael in this dazzling collection that has all the thrills of his career in one big 3-pack thrill pack. It's available only from Sports Illustrated, the magazine that gets you into sports like no one else. Call now to subscribe or renew and get 54 issues of Sports Illustrated, including the swimsuit issue for only $1.39 an issue. Save over 52% off the cover price. For quicker delivery, use your credit card. SI and your free thrill pack make great gifts. Don't miss your free thrill pack. Now it's the only way to fly. There is nothing in the world like Sports Illustrated. Get into it.
The word that has surfaced repeatedly in our nation's capital recently now applies to the Washington Redskins. Transition.
And I think he ended up making the decision with his heart. Another reason for his retirement, he wanted to spend more time with his wife and 2 sons, whom he used to take to training camp with him. One of them plays for the Cardinals.
The last 2 or 3 years have been different for me. I have one son that's playing on the West Coast, played at Stanford. I've seen him play 2 games, and that bothers me. I want to go and see him play. I want to sit in the stands and just be a dad.
Joe Gibbs, his football legacy, 3 different quarterbacks, 3 Super Bowl championships, 1 coach, 1 philosophy. The genius is in the details. Eric Dickerson made official what some have been thinking the last couple of years. The NFL's #2 all-time rusher announced his retirement today.
Larry's legend, 1 silver light lead.
And when he saw Magic, you got the feeling that he was being genuine up there.
Larry Bird said that there will be another Larry Bird one day. And Larry, there will never, ever, ever be another Larry Bird.
And when he took Connor off the stage.
But tonight, my basketball career is officially over, and I had a blast.
It was Larry Legend leaving the Garden with his little boy. That's what Walt Disney made movies about.
I tell you what, when you play second fiddle, Larry Bird, you still play a pretty mean fiddle. Because Birdie was the best.
I think Kevin McHale's idea of retirement is not going off with some grand bash.
After 13 years, saying goodbye as expected was tough for the future Hall of Famer.
I'm so proud to have played my entire career in Boston. You know, that and my number going up top are the 2 things I'm the proudest of. If I could do it all over again, I can't imagine ever wanting to do it anywhere else. That was the only place for me.
But his most important stat has to be the 2 appearances on Cheers. Bill Laimbeer knew this season was going to be his last. He just didn't know this season was only going to last this long. USA Today recently polled the NBA general managers, got their 1-word descriptions of Laimbeer. Laimbeer said, "I'd be lying if I said I didn't like to see nice things written about me. Even in high school, the other teams disliked me. It's my style of play."
Like the average guy on the street. I had a job to do, and I did it.
He thinks that he's a lot like Pete Rose, that people didn't like him, but they wanted to have him on their team.
The person that you love to hate, he was still an but you know, he was cool though.
The race for the pole was almost an anticlimax after the sudden and final farewell of 4-time Indy champion A.J. Foyt just minutes before qualifying began.
One of the things you could rely on every year of your life, April 15th, you pay your taxes. May 30th or 31st, A.J. Foyt's in the Indy 500. Well, I'm still paying taxes. 58-year-old Foyt, who hadn't driven in a race since last year's Indy, took one last lap at the old Brickyard and then announced he was retiring from racing.
The only driver with that hat trick, and finally he's got more time to spend with his 4 kids, Terry, Jerry, Larry, and Tony.
He whiffed fathers, then he whiffed their sons. He pitched in 7 ballparks which no longer exist. He was a miracle Met who played a record 27 seasons. But in Nolan Ryan's words, there's no way I'll ever throw again.
Then on that pitch to Magadan, I felt it pop.
The thing I'm going to remember most about Ryan's retirement, per se, is the fact that he never really got to go out on his own terms.
I think everybody has visions of things turning out different than they really do. And obviously I would have loved to have finished striking out the last hitter I ever faced.
Nolan Ryan and George Brett ended their careers Sunday in a stadium that has provided some of the bold print on their Hall of Fame resumes. Last game for George Brett, standing ovation from both teams.
1-2.
And George, in the 9th inning against Tom Henke, called this the most emotional at-bat he's ever had. The dribbler back through the box, and George said, "I had tears in my eyes at first base. I did not want to get off the bag."
A Hollywood scriptwriter might want to get a hold of this. Ironic that these 2 guys would leave the game with their teams playing one another on the final day of the season.
Nolan recorded his 5,000th career strikeout in Arlington Stadium. George Brett with his very first home run of his career in the same stadium.
Still to come here on the Best of SportsCenter, we remember those who passed on in 1993.
And up next, we scan the transaction wire for those trades that brought the sports world to a standstill. Stay with us on the Best of SportsCenter.
Tired of the same old boring New Year's Eve house party? This year, take a walk on the wild side.
Call your cable operator and party with the king, Howard Stern. Invite Howard into your living room this New Year's Eve on pay-per-view. Or go back to the same old tired house party. Howard Stern's New Year's Eve party, live on pay-per-view.
Find out which one of these girls is a man.
At last, creative, casual, affordable California cuisine comes to Fort Jefferson at Noodles Cafe. From California wood-fired pizzas cooked in an all-brick oven to a wide array of wood grill specialties to innovative noodle dishes from around the world. Noodles Cafe is a place for the whole family. Right, you're even allowed to draw on the tablecloths. And Noodles is the perfect spot for business meetings or any gathering. Visit Noodles Cafe, overlooking the harbor in Fort Jefferson Village.
Ultimate ESPN Sportscenter highlight goes like this. Loose ball in the end zone. Fall on it, no chance. My feet are light, and I've got the moves. At the 50, I see Myers. Not now, Chris. I'm a busy man. And as I cross the goal line, I laugh, knowing my agent has just cut a deal for my very own fitness video. Yeah, that's my SportsCenter highlight.
Welcome back to the Best of SportsCenter. Every sports year, there are thousands of sports transactions, comings and goings, hirings and firings, and some, of course, are more memorable than others.
In a year where the NFL expanded by 2 teams, the sports world continued to see the expansion of the owners' wallets.
The Charlotte Hornets shook up the NBA by signing Larry Johnson to an $84 million deal.
On Thursday, Anthony Penny Hardaway ensured himself a major coin by signing with the Orlando Magic.
Penny will get close to 7 billion pennies for his hard work on the court. Now, if you line the pennies, all those pennies side to side, that would stretch a little over 3 times around the world. The Golden State Warriors made it official today, signing the league's top overall pick to a 15-year contract worth at least $74.4 million.
Well, you know what we're waiting for now. We are waiting for the first $100 million contract, and it's only a matter of a year or 2 or a couple of years away.
Maybe if Jordan came back, maybe he would merit $100 million.
The stunner is Derek Coleman, turning down $69 million from the New Jersey Nets. Now, I grew up in New Jersey, and that's better than walking around money.
Years and dollars, the ultimate bottom line for first baseman Will Clark, who made his first appearance as a member of the Texas Rangers.
I think what he did shows no class, but he did it, and he looked out for himself and didn't care. Friendship didn't mean anything to him.
Palmeiro went on the radio last night in Fort Worth to publicly apologize to Clark. Palmeiro says that he spoke out of frustration.
On Monday, Baltimore turned their attention to their offense by adding Rafael Palmeiro's bat to the lineup. That bat came equipped with a $30 million price tag.
The running man has come back to the den in Dallas, and the road is paved with cash.
The contract reportedly worth $13.6 million, making Emmett what he wanted to be, the highest paid runner in the game.
I'm glad you're getting this, Emmett. Are you happy? Very much. I am, too.
9 days after the completion of his worst season ever, Mike Ditka was fired.
Scripture tells you that all things shall pass. This too shall pass.
We want fight! We want fight! We want fight!
But that moment with those guys outside yelling for Ditka to come out, the coach of the Bears, I think encapsulated in a couple of seconds what that guy meant to all the guys in the saloons of Chicago.
Larry Brown, who's never met a job he didn't keep, won't be keeping his with the Clippers.
There is a coach named Brown who wanders around town to town. He quits all his jobs to escape basketball mobs. There's no employer he can turn down.
Meanwhile, Cal's Lou Campanelli is the first major coaching casualty of the college hoops season.
I want to make it perfectly clear to everyone. I was not fired for any aberrant behavior. I basically created a monster, folks, and the monster came back and bit my head off.
Bobby Cremins is going back to where it all began. He's leaving Georgia Tech after 12 seasons to become the head coach at South Carolina, where he played his college ball.
But this morning, Cremins told South Carolina athletic director Mike McGee that he would remain at Georgia Tech, almost in the same newscast. That was remarkable. Bobby Cremins was hired today by South Carolina. This just in. We're only kidding.
More people attended a rally to urge free agent Reggie White to stay with the Eagles than went to the rally to celebrate Villanova's NCAA title.
Today,
Reggie paid a visit to Ohio.
Reggie White was at the Knicks game.
Still left on this travel tour, the Washington Redskins.
He was at the Pistons game last week.
Reggie was in New York Tuesday.
Reggie White has been everywhere.
He will thunder across the frozen tundra. Lambeau Field is home to Reggie White now.
Joe Montana was in Kansas City today.
And he wasn't looking for a good steakhouse.
Joe Montana spent Friday visiting Phoenix.
Detroit Lions are interested in Joe Montana.
Will it be Phoenix or Kansas City, or will he stay in San Francisco?
According to ESPN's Chris Mortensen, Joe Montana is about to become a Kansas City Chief.
Going through withdrawal because there are no more Reggie White stories, Joe Montana is there for you.
A player as talented as Joe Montana just doesn't get traded that easily, but it is finally done.
I have absolutely no regrets whatsoever.
Next, the tragedies of 1993. We'll recap the sorrow and pain felt over the passing of those athletes whose time was too soon.
ESPN's Guide to Better Bowling.
Here's the spin. It's the Thrifty Car Rental Bowl Week. Non-stop college bowl game action every day. We'll strike up the band. You pin down the schedule. The Thrifty Car Rental Bowl Week. The ball gets rolling Tuesday, December 28th. It's your turn. Go bowling pigskin style.
Remember the keys to successful bowling: concentration and...
A member of the Houston Oilers is dead this evening, along with a longtime friend, in a bizarre incident. Jeff Alm, a defensive tackle for the Oilers, committed suicide this morning on the exit ramp of a Houston freeway, moments after he was at the wheel in an accident in which his friend was thrown out of Alm's vehicle to his death.
Hall of Fame catcher Roy Campanella has died from a heart attack.
All the baseball world is in mourning. 56-year-old Don Drysdale is dead.
They held the funeral today for Heather Farr, the courageous 28-year-old pro golfer who lost a grueling 4.5-year-old battle with cancer.
This was an especially tough year. We lost so many great people before their time.
There is late and tragic news from college basketball.
Chris Street, a 6'8" forward with the 14th-ranked Iowa Hawkeyes, was killed in a car accident earlier this evening in Iowa City. Street was returning from a team meal when his car collided with a dump truck. Street was averaging 9 rebounds and 13 points in the Hawkeyes' first 15 games this year. The Iowa game with Northwestern, scheduled for Wednesday night, has been postponed. Chris Street was 2 weeks shy of his 21st birthday.
Drazen Petrovic, who with the New Jersey Nets these past 2 seasons had blossomed into one of the NBA's star young guards, and whose intelligence and leadership had won him respect and friendship around the league and around the country, is reported dead tonight at the age of 28, the victim of an automobile accident in Germany.
He was riding in the passenger seat of a car that hit a tractor trailer, killing him instantly. Petrovic was returning from Poland, where he played for Croatia in a qualifying tournament. The team returned. He left them in Frankfurt to visit his girlfriend. Those who knew him in his game were still painfully stunned.
He left no stones unturned in terms of trying to make himself the best player he could be. And as I said, we don't get enough players in this game. They care that much about the game.
Boston Celtics star Reggie Lewis collapsed while shooting baskets during a workout at Brandeis University.
After an apparent delay in calling medical attention, Lewis was taken to a nearby hospital at 5:40 and died after nearly 2 hours of failed attempts to revive him.
We've lost a very treasured member of our family tonight. It's a time of incredible grief for everyone in our organization.
I was stunned. The first thing I thought of was Lenny Bias.
He succeeded Bird as team captain upon the latter's retirement. One writer characterized him as having the tools to be the bridge over which the Celtics cross. At 27, he had played 10 years of basketball in Boston. One day, one horrible day, would overshadow all of that time. April 29th, 1993. Not merely the collapse, the poignant rubbing of the chest, but the public agony of his diagnoses, the irony of the battery of doctors who were dubbed the Dream Team, who said he must stop playing, the doctor to whom he turned on his own, who said he could continue. He died as he lived, on the court. Reggie Lewis would have been 28 years old in a little over 3 months. He leaves his son Reginald, who is not yet one, and his wife, his college sweetheart Donna, who recently became pregnant for the second time.
Monday, at one of the nation's most historic cemeteries, where patriots and playwrights and politicians are buried, they laid Reggie Lewis to rest.
Everybody knows who Reggie is now. Everybody knows Reggie. I love you, Reggie. I love you.
Prayers were said and fingers were crossed and hopes were pitted against hopes. But early this morning came the final news. Davy Allison pronounced dead at 7 a.m. Central Daylight Time, the victim of massive head injury.
I remember years ago, Bobby got hurt real bad at Elko, Minnesota. And I never thought I'd see the man hurt that bad again. He almost died. I saw him in intensive care day after day. I didn't think he'd make it. And the worst I've ever seen him hurt was Clifford's funeral. And we got to do it again. I don't know if we can.
Alan Kulwicki, the '92 Winston Cup champion, was killed Thursday night when a private plane he was aboard crashed and caught fire near a highway in rural Tennessee. Officials say 4 others also died, 2 associates of Kulwicki's racing team and 2 pilots who were unidentified as of early Friday morning.
We will never forget the lucky number 7. God, we will always be reminded in our memory, and we will smile each and every time we hear or see a Polish victory lap.
Eventually the race completed and won by Rusty Wallace, and then in a tribute to Alan Kulwicki, the Polish victory lap.
We got a report, and so and this was about an hour before air.
3 members of the Cleveland Indians were involved in a one-boat accident at 7:30 this evening, 30 miles west of Orlando. 1 player is dead. His name has not yet been released. The other 2 players are listed in critical condition.
It's the last thing in your mind ever, and especially at spring training.
The 3 players involved have been confirmed. Pitcher Steve Olin is dead. Tim Cruz in surgery right now. Bobby Ojeda reportedly in satisfactory condition. And Jane Wattrell of WFTV in Orlando joins us now to update the story. Jane?
What we are being told by eyewitnesses is that the speedboat struck a dock, and then all the ball players, the Cleveland Indian ball players that were aboard, and there were 3 of them, were hit in the chest. Tim Cruz is in critical condition. He is in surgery right now.
It was our feeling when he first arrived that he likely had a non-survivable brain injury.
Cruz was pronounced dead at 5:40 a.m. Tuesday morning.
We'll get over this. I don't know about the Cruz no.
Cruz leaves a wife and 3 children. He was 31.
I'm not feeling with it very well at all. He was not even a baseball related. He was my best friend. He was the best man at my wedding. And the reason I am where I am today is because of him.
The support in Cleveland has been tremendous, and I just want to tell everybody back there how much I appreciate everything, and if I could, I'd give each and every one a hug, and if I'm there, please don't, and you see me, don't be afraid to come up and give me a hug. I can always use them.
Steve Olin was 27. He is survived by his wife, a daughter who turned 3 last Sunday, and infant twins.
Just months after the Cleveland Indians had begun to put the pieces back together, another death has shattered the already fragile baseball family. 29-year-old pitcher Cliff Young was killed Thursday night in an automobile accident.
I don't ever recall a tragedy of that magnitude involving that many people.
The idea was not to try to get headlines. The idea was to try to make an impact.
Just 10 months after being virtually forced to reveal publicly that he had the AIDS virus, Arthur Ashe has lost the battle with the disease. Saturday afternoon in a New York hospital, he passed away from pneumonia, a complication of AIDS.
You know, the depth of the man, I guess. I've never met a person or been in a person's presence, I guess, who accomplished as much, who just had so much integrity, who was committed to the cause.
He was a man who just happened to be a great tennis player. He was a great human being, a humanitarian.
The story wasn't his passing. The story was his 40-some-odd years and understanding how we were cheated out of another 40.
He beats Jackson. He goes baseline. What are you doing? That's it, Tyler. Don't score. He scores. The Devils win the cup. The Devils win the cup.
I saw defense I didn't even recognize this weekend. I'm telling you, here is Pittsburgh playing UCLA, and look at the defense right here. Look at that defense. It's the diversionary, shoeless zone.
I remember watching that, hey, different coiffure.
Hey, I was a little bit younger there, wasn't I? But I didn't know you were going to show that. I should tell the people I brought the tape, though. I didn't know you were going to show them, but I do carry the tape with me every once in a while.
This is a tough one for all of us here at ESPN, the death of our friend and colleague, Jim Valvano.
Jimmy Valvano cared about his players. He cared about people, and he would do anything to help you.
I don't think a lot of people realize what a special person he was. And when I mean special, I'm talking once in a lifetime.
Jim Valvano's courageous battle ended Wednesday morning. 3 months ago, when Jim Valvano made his last trip up to our ESPN studios, he jokingly asked me how SportsCenter was going to cover his death. He made 2 requests: put his picture over my shoulder and make sure it's a good one, and make sure people have fun.
And that screen is flashing up there 30 seconds like I care about that screen right now, huh? I got tumors all over my body. I'm worried about some guy in the back going 30 seconds, huh? You got a lot. Hey, panavla, buddy. You got a lot. Cancer can take away all my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind, it cannot touch my heart, and it cannot touch my soul. And those 3 things are going to carry on forever. I thank you, and God bless you all.
Football. Real football. On real grass.
Lambeau Field in snow.
No,
too obvious. What about the fearsome force?
The Purple People Eaters.
Carl Eller.
No-name defense.
The Oakland Raiders.
Baltimore Colts. Hey, Mike Curtis.
Ray Nitschke.
Willie Lanier.
Immaculate reception.
Franco's Italian.
Oh, real fullback.
Franco Harris, Marv Hubbard, take your pick.
No. The Snake to Clarence Davis, 26 seconds left. AFC semifinals versus Miami.
Beechwood Age Budweiser. Crisp, clean, classic.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
Every year at this time, we count our blessings at Walmart.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
We're thankful we get to live in a country where freedom has no bounds.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
But most especially, we're thankful for the people who make our jobs possible.
And a Happy New Year.
To all our vendor partners who bring us our great products, and to all our wonderful customers who buy them, may this be the merriest Christmas of all.
In the outfield, Kirby Union Gap Puckett. Also in the outfield, Juan Going Gonzalez. Behind the plate is Tony Jalapena. And managing this club, Jim Bella.
Next on the ESPN.
College sports certainly had its glorious moments this year, with North Carolina's triumph in the Final Four, and of course the battles this fall for #1, highlighting a memorable college football season.
But all was not pomp and pageantry on campus in 1993. The senior side of college athletics once again kept words like allegation, violation, and probation in our nightly vocabularies.
I get an increasing sense that Jack Webb should anchor the show.
I had my doubts. At first, all I heard from were disgruntled former players.
He actually tried to give me money one time.
But then one of those players handed the phone to a man who would not identify himself, only than to say he was an assistant coach who was jeopardizing his career at Houston and his future in coaching by telling the truth about what John Jenkins was doing in the football program.
What John Jenkins has asked us to do as coaches here at the University of Houston is to lie.
University of Houston football program are being hit by charges much more unsettling.
We talked about how to get around getting caught, how to keep from getting caught. We talked about actually breaking the rules.
ESPN obtained this document, which states that all 24 players who entered the university in 1987 graduated.
I haven't graduated, so I know that's not true, you know. And I know at least 5 others that didn't graduate as well.
4 days later, after it was mutually agreed that Jenkins would talk with us, we met him on campus. But Jenkins moved to change the rules.
Till we receive a list of accusations by ESPN, myself or any other member of the university would not be available for any comment.
Jenkins himself recently confirmed that he inserted video clips of bare-breasted women into game films shown to his football team.
There was a woman, she was gyrating, doing things with her clothes off.
At least 3 former Houston football players allegedly have received death threats amid the swirl of allegations against Jenkins. And Staggs himself recently received this voicemail message from one of his colleagues.
All I want you to know is you are a yellow-backed, spineless human being. I'm going to tell you what, young man, you mess with me and my family when you mess with Coach Jenkins.
Any act of intimidation by any member of our coaching staff or administration is reprehensible to me, and it's unacceptable in the Houston Cougar program.
University of Houston football coach John Jenkins resigned Friday.
That I'll always have that fighting Cougar in my heart. Thank you.
The Auburn football program took a serious hit today. The NCAA Committee on Infractions announced its decision in the almost 2-year-old case against the school, an investigation that might never have happened if it wasn't for ex-Tiger Eric Ramsey making allegations of improper payments and extra benefits to athletes.
There's a story in Seattle tonight. The University of Washington football coach Don James has resigned just hours after the Pac-10 has announced serious infractions committed by the football program at the University of Washington.
Washington football was placed on probation and banned for postseason play for 2 years. James, who was not present at a Sunday night news conference, said he was displeased that there was no chance to cross-examine the alleged players and recruits. Washington Athletic Director Barbara Hedges was present and read this statement from James.
I have decided that I can no longer coach in a conference that treats its members, its coaches, and their players so unfairly.
Coach James has been like a father image to all of us. And I want everybody to know that, you know, whoever went out and took this man out of office, tomorrow morning I want to wake up, look at the mirror, and realize what they did.
Historically, we remember the blunders as well as the triumphs. Next on the Best of Sportscenter, moments of infamy, some more costly than others.
Question, if your cold pill's so good, how...
For people who know champagne.
ESPN's Guide to Better Bowling.
Here's the spin. It's the Thrifty Car Rental Bowl Week. Non-stop college bowl game action every day. We'll strike up the band. You pin down the schedule. The Thrifty Car Rental Bowl Week. Ball gets rolling Tuesday, December 28th. It's your turn. Go bowling pigskin style.
Remember the keys to successful bowling: concentration and...
I think people like to see people make mistakes.
Carl Lewis thing.
I just cracked up.
And the Rockets, red flag. Uh-oh. I'll make up for it now. For the land of the free.
Sarge National Anthem.
I could not even control my breathing.
Written by Francis. God, I hope that's not on my resume.
The Chris Webber mistake was a little bit, that wasn't funny.
The alley-oop to Chris Webber. Remember that name. Michigan retakes the lead, but the Tar Heels stay in it. Donald Williams again pulling up for 3 on the break. The game tied at 58. Under a minute to go. Webber with the rebound. Now watch him. Watch him. Clock running down. He travels there. It wasn't called. So he says, hey, I got away with that one. I'll go into the forecourt, and then I'll call timeout to set things up. Only one problem. They didn't have any timeouts left. Technical foul and possession to Carolina. The Tar Heels go on to win the national championship, 77-71.
I really don't have any excuses.
I just called a timeout, and I shouldn't have.
In a game with so many big plays.
Right away, Tommy, Aikman, Irvin, look at the move he makes on Williams, the touchdown, and a 14-10 lead at the end of the half is now 28-10. Picks it up, rumblin', stumbling, he goes all the way, 52-10.
This will probably be the one play that's remembered from the Super Bowl.
Leon Lett, and he just could go all the way. No! Don Beebe, at least trying, knocks the ball out of the end zone.
And they're telling me, Leon Lett. I'm like, oh.
A 41-yard attempt with the play clock winding down just does get it off, but it's blocked. And Jerry Jones celebrating, thinking he has it won. The ball is loose. Time is running out, but Leon Lett flies into your picture, touches it, and that allows the Dolphins to go after it. Jeff Dellenbach recovering at the 1-yard line with 3 seconds left. The officials confer a major blunder.
Like, if anybody, why Leon Lett?
With 3 seconds left, Stoyanovich, the 19-yarder for the win. You see the game clock expire, and wow, the Dolphins survive and pull it out in Big D. Strange but true.
It's a mistake, and we all make them. And that's part of this game.
You don't want to see a guy like that get a second strike against him in that way, because no matter what he does in his career, those are the 2 moments he'll be remembered for.
I've been in games where I've blown them and been in games where I've won them, and as soon as that's over, it's over. As far as I'm concerned, other people might remember it, but in my mind, it's all over.
2 balls and 2 strikes on it. Here's the pitch on the way, a swing and a belt. Left field, way back. Blue Jays win it! The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run in the 9th inning, and the Blue Jays have repeated as World Series champions. Touch 'em all, Joe!
Felt fine. I wanted the ball. I got the ball, I didn't get the job done.
Conacher puts a rebound past Roy, and the Kings lead it 2-1. Pat Conacher, journeyman. Then the turning point. Kerry Frazier said that Marty McSorley was using an illegally curved stick. McSorley goes to the penalty box. Desjardins from the slap. And it's all over. Desjardins with a hat trick, a defenseman with a hat trick.
I think there's a lot of players on both teams that are going to have sticks that are close. I never thought it was over.
3 straight overtime wins, leading Montreal to tonight.
3-1 halves into the third. Di Pietro and Gilberti on 2-on-1. Di Pietro goes shelf. The picture of the champions in the sport for 19 and 93, the Montreal Canadiens.
Still to come on this highlight reel, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's an interference. The oddities of 93 when the show continues. I think I can safely say no story is too bizarre for Sportscenter. Over the span of last year, we delved into every sort of oddity. There was the controversy surrounding David Williams, the Houston Oilers lineman who chose bonding with his newborn over a day at the office. And then there was the Yankee rookie pitcher Domingo Jean, who got lost on his way to Yankee Stadium and had to run 2 miles to make his debut. But we start our recap of some of the stranger stories of 1993 with an obscure boxer who found his 15 minutes of fame.
And a funny thing happened on the way to the Tommy Morris and Mike Williams fight last night. Williams, the challenger, pulled out an hour before the fight.
So they brought this guy out of the stands, Tim Tomaszek.
Oh, the Wisconsin doughboy.
It was his birthday. He said sure. He had a lot of fun tonight. In the 4th, Tommy quits messing around and send Tomaszek to the mat. It would end after 4 rounds by medical decision. Following Tim Tomaszek's 15 minutes of fame, he told Al Bernstein he wanted to add a few more minutes to his clock.
A lot of times we've had you on only once or twice. You've been anxious to get on again. You didn't think we'd be in this circumstance.
Oh, no. Jeepers creepers. Not at all. Everybody who works doesn't even probably know I'm on. I do work at Shopko. Hello, everybody from Green Bay. I love you, Mom and Dad, and everybody here.
Tomaszek is the first one to admit he's never going to be a champion, but he absolutely enjoys doing what he does for a living.
Tell me exactly, from a boxing strategy standpoint, what you were doing here.
Praying to Mom. Mom, help me. The kid's goddamn strong. I was in there. Oh, jeepers. They're too strong. Look at him, boy.
You got hit by the referee there. And
oh, they're all against me. I love this crowd, though.
Tim Tomaszek may have lost the fight last night, but a star was born.
Well, I'm a good-looking guy. Can't you see?
The scariest sight Evander Holyfield witnessed Saturday night was not Riddick Bowe. It was the man strapped to the propeller-driven paraglider who dropped in on their 7th round.
Here's a guy whose ego was so starved that he felt compelled to overshadow a heavyweight championship. The scene that I remember most, though, was after he got caught up in the top rope and then fell back, and how people were waiting on line to beat the hell out of him. It reminded me of that scene from the movie Airplane where you had the passenger who was going crazy and people were lining up to take shots at him. Boom, boom, boom. And that's what happened. The only thing that was missing was Peter Graves as the pilot.
All the way around 1993, there should be like a little asterisk beside it because so many odd things happened. Vince Coleman was back in a Los Angeles courtroom today. The former New York Mets outfielder pleaded guilty to a reduced misdemeanor charge stemming from a July 24th firecracker throwing incident. Coleman was sentenced to 3 years probation and fined $1,000. He admitted throwing the firecracker but claims it wasn't intended to be a malicious act.
Buck Showalter's team down 3-1 with 2 outs in the ninth. Mike Stanley with 1 on. Is the game over? No, because of that guy, a fan on the field. Timeout was called before the play. So Mike Stanley gets another chance. This time he delivers. And Greg Harris is weakening. He walks Deion James to load the bases. And up comes Buck. Who's coming up? It's the guy you want, Don Mattingly. 4 for 7 with the bases loaded this year. And make that 5 for 8 as he rips one to right. Pinch runners. Gerald Williams, Andy Stankiewicz don't score. So the fan saves the Yankees. The Red Sox go from a 3-1 win to a 4-3 loss.
Our trip through the Wayback Machine continues. We present those bouts with perfection, the no-nos. Chris and I return in a smidge.
From the director of Freddy's
It's as if we were doing a little play-by-play.
The pitch to Cooper, and Chris Bosio will take a no-hitter to the 9th. If he goes to the 9th, we're going to bring it to you.
That would deserve a wow. That would be really special.
Looking for a piece of history, we take you to the 9th as promised, and trying to no-hit the Red Sox.
Is counted short. To Martinez, 2 to go.
We try to be fair to everybody, but when it gets to the 9th, the fan comes out.
1-2 pitch, grounded to third. Flowers with it. 1 out away.
It was as if we had front row seats, actually. Better than that because we had our water cups right there.
2-1 pitch, ground ball over the middle. Charged by Vizquel, barehanded a no-hitter.
And we get paid to do this.
Now the story of Jim Abbott, the no-hitter. Late into the game, Albert Bell with a grounder. Wade Boggs dives in the hole, gets Bell. This was in the 7th.
To the 8th we go, 2 out, Sandy Alomar pinch hitting. Wade Boggs, he's got this one too, the nice scoop, and the out.
2 outs, 1 more out to go for the no-no. Carlos Baerga to short, and Velarde throws him out, and the celebration is on for Jim Abbott.
I was really thinking about the win. I really was, because, you know, no-hitters can come and go, and they'd be very, very nice, but you know, I'd like to get to the playoffs.
The closest the 24-year-old Astro had come to a no-hitter was a 3-hitter August 17th against Florida.
2 years ago in his major league debut for Houston, skipper Art Howe pulled Kyle after 6 hitless innings. Kyle had hit the pitch count.
Kyle on the hill, he was early also with the curveball. Andujar Cedeno in the hole at short, got it, go! And he gets his man, a great stretch by Bagwell. Chico Walker, pitch hitting, the last hope for the Mets to break it up. No! Swing and a miss. And Darryl Kyle has a page in the Astro history book.
I was surprised. I thought I'd be real nervous and tense. I really wasn't. I just went out there and I tried to concentrate and made sure if I missed, I'd miss down or off the plate. And on the 9th inning, I made some good pitches when I had to.
From those pitching gems, we close the show out with other jewels. Sportscenter's memorable moments still to come, so stay with us. I know you will.
Bell.
To truly appreciate.
It really has been a memorable 93, a year deserving of a wow, I'd say, Dan. Every day seems to bring us another story of interest.
Starting to get a tear in my eye. 1994 SportsCenter will continue with its unique coverage of the sports world. And as we say goodbye, we leave you with some of those memorable and unusual plays that made this year so unique. For Chris Myers, I'm Dan Patrick. Thanks for joining us.
Jackson, he's got it! Lockett with the catch! Wow, what a catch!
He's got it. And Ben Sheldon was there. The ball was deflected and caught by Martin.
O'Neal knocked the goal all the way down. He did pull the goal down.
Kelly tried to center, didn't click, slides toward the flyer, net Connor took his bacon. Rolling, it's in!
Look out, look out.
Sets up Campbell.
Look out.
Look it out. It is off his head.
Here's Cecil Fielder, the tying run. There it goes. Goodbye.
He tried to throw that. Oh, my God.
Reaching over and falling in.